Imagine yourself at 18 years old in your home in fertile Minnesota. It's Sunday, December 7th, 1941. You're sitting with your family listening to the radio when suddenly the news breaks that will change the world forever. Pearl Harbor has been attacked. Don Oganes heard that announcement that very day, and just a few months later, he would receive his draft notice. What followed were nearly 4 years of his life navigating unknown oceans, becoming part of one of the largest military operations in history, the invasion of the Philippines. This is the story of how a farmer's son from Minnesota became a radio operator on the USS Blue Ridge, the flagship that coordinated the largest invasion of the Pacific. A story of survival, strange initiations at the equator, exotic ports, and finally, being on the front lines of Leyte, one of the most decisive battles of the war. He was born on November 19th in fertile Minnesota. His childhood was like that of any boy in the northern United States during that era. A small town, a rural school, a large family. His parents were Alfred Oganes and Hannah Oganes. He was the third of 7 children, 2 older brothers and 4 sisters.
I went to school in Fertile. I went to school, some country school, and also graduated at Gary. The last 2 years I went to Gary.
Okay, and who were your parents?
Alfred Oganes, Hannah Oganes.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
Oh yes, I had six siblings. 2 brothers, 4 sisters.
Okay, and did your 2 brothers go to war?
No, just the one.
Okay.
The one next oldest to me.
Okay.
Millard.
His older brother had already gone to war. It wasn't a surprise when the draft came for him. His family knew what was coming. In those days, being young and male meant one thing: conscription. December 7th, 1941, a date that would change the trajectory of millions of American lives. Don was at home that day, like millions of other Americans, when the news arrived.
And do you remember Pearl Harbor being bombed?
Oh yes, I was home that day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I heard about it on the radio.
Okay, and what did you think?
Terrible.
And did you think, oh boy, here I'm gonna go?
Yeah, I thought of that too.
Mm-hmm.
His family didn't need to discuss what would come next. They all knew. Within months, his draft notice arrived. The conscription process was moving quickly. Young men across America were being called to serve. The draft notice came. Don Oganes was now part of the machinery of war. The first stop was Fort Snelling in Minnesota. Ironic, being drafted in his own state. But from there, everything moved quickly.
And you were drafted, you said?
Yes.
What thoughts and attitudes did your parents have when you had to go in the service? Did they express much?
Not really much was said about it, one way or the other. I suppose they didn't want me to go because I was the only boy at home, and left my dad alone with a couple of sisters, on the farm. So
Right.
that made it a little more difficult for them.
But they never expressed.
They didn't really push to try to get me deferred like some of the others around there did.
Unlike some families who pulled strings or made exceptions, Don's family accepted their obligation. His father would have to manage the farm alone, with only his daughters to help. It was sacrifice without complaint, the way of that generation. His military journey began at Fort Snelling, Minnesota. But it didn't last long. Within weeks, he was shipped to Camp Crowder in southwestern Missouri for basic training. It was brief, intense, and designed to transform civilians into soldiers. But something happened during those early weeks that would change everything about his service.
Okay. Where did you go to basic training?
Camp Crowder, well, I started out at Fort Snelling, Minnesota, and then went down to Camp Crowder in southwestern Missouri. Was there for only a couple of weeks in basic training, although it didn't amount to much. And then I was assigned to the Signal Corps then.
He had passed a test, a test about sounds, tones, and frequencies. It was a sign that he had a gift for something that the modern military desperately needed: communication. Radio operators, code readers, the men who would connect the dots between command and action across the vast Pacific.
From Camp Crowder, Don was sent to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For 3 months, he attended a specialized radio school. The training was rigorous. He had to learn the equipment, the frequencies, the protocols. But Pittsburgh was just the beginning. After Pittsburgh came Washington, D.C., a brief administrative stop. Then came Brooklyn, New York, Fort Hamilton, and the Brooklyn Army Base. From December 1942 to September 1943, he immersed himself in advanced radio training.
Took some kind of test, and I don't remember exactly what it must have had to do with sounds and tones and things of that sort, perhaps. But anyway, from there, then I was sent to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and went to a radio school there. And I was there for about 3 months, and then from there I went to Washington, D.C., and that was only for a couple of weeks, and then we were sent over to Brooklyn Army Base, or Brooklyn, New York. We stayed at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, but I went to a radio school at Brooklyn Army Base. Mm-hmm. And I was there for, from December to September.
Of
going to radio school.
42 and 43?
In 42, 43, yes.
Okay.
And
what is Signal Corps?
Well, radio communications.
9 months of training in Brooklyn. 9 months learning the systems, the codes, the procedures that would become the nervous system of Naval Command. By September 1943, Don Oganes was ready. He had his assignment. He had his destination. The USS Blue Ridge was waiting for him.
September 1943. The USS Blue Ridge was ready to set sail from New York Harbor. Don Oganes, now a trained radio operator, stepped aboard what would be his home for nearly 4 years. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. Bristling with antennas, packed with sophisticated communications equipment, it was the flagship of the transport fleet, the command center for the largest naval operations in the Pacific. The voyage was long. First stop, Cuba.
So we sailed out of New York in September of 1943. We sailed down to Cuba. So I got a chance to step off the ship and get to land in Cuba there for an overnight stay. And then from there we went to the Panama Canal and through the Panama Canal, and that was pretty interesting.
A night in Cuba, a glimpse of an exotic island. Then onward to the Panama Canal, one of the greatest engineering marvels of the age. The ship descended through the locks like a giant being carefully lowered into the earth. And then the Pacific Ocean, the vast, endless expanse that would define his next 4 years. Days at sea, nothing but ocean and sky. The ship cutting through the vast Pacific, heading west toward war. And then came the moment, the crossing of the equator. Every sailor who has never crossed it is a pollywog. After crossing, you become a shellback. And the initiation? It is a tradition as old as sailing itself.
When you cross the Pacific and go across the equator, that's a big day. That's a big time. Before you go across the equator, you're a pollywog. So then they have an initiation for you. And I got some pictures over here on that. I don't know if you want to see.
I'll get them, yeah.
Those back there.
Is this stuff too?
Yeah, you can put it there, yeah. Anyway, they have an initiation you go through. Well, that's, well, here's the commander of our ship, and here's this rugged-looking guy. He was King Neptunus, and he, of course, has gone across the equator before.
Okay.
And so he was called Neptunus Rex. There's another picture of him there. And here are some of the foolish things they do. Like there's a, you can't hardly see it, but there's a canvas tube being held by the guys, and then you crawl through that, and then they shoot water at you, and here a guy comes crawling out of that tube there.
Looks like gym class.
Yeah, right. It's like a bunch of kids having fun.
Yeah.
And here they swat you with these here things
gee.
that, of course, they're harmless, but
Yeah. What's this guy? What are they doing to him?
they're squirting something into his face here, and there's another picture of that here too. Yeah, here, where they're using some kind of a, it doesn't hurt or anything like that. It's just something. But that's one of the officers, you know, and of course they're above all this here foolishness. But
Yeah.
and
Well,
then,
that guy's having a good time that's doing this
oh
squirting.
yeah, sure. Well, he's gone across the equator before, see. So, yeah, here's a better picture of that tube-like thing. And here they have a guy kneeling on a pad there. It's not a pad, but it's got some metal on it, and you're supposed to get a shock. I know when I was on there, I never got a shock. It was malfunctioning then. And then they supposed to be sucking on a bottle, a nipple on a bottle. Here's a picture of the same thing. Kind of silly, but
Yeah. Well, you gotta have fun.
oh yeah.
It was harmless, but designed to humiliate. Canvas tubes and water jets, swatting with paddles, substances squirted in faces, metal plates that supposedly delivered electric shocks, though Don's malfunctioned, sparing him that particular indignity. It was ritual. It was camaraderie through shared embarrassment. It was the Navy's way of saying, "You are one of us now." And in the photographs Don kept, clear, well-composed shots taken by someone with a good camera, you can see the laughter in the faces. The initiation was over. They were shellbacks.
After the equator came the Fiji Islands. The ship was too large to approach the shore, so the native traders came to them. Small canoes filled with trinkets, colorful, exotic things that seemed magical to American sailors far from home.
So anyway, then after these shenanigans at the equator, then we just kept on going, and we went to the Fiji Islands was next. We had to stop there too, and as we're coming in towards shore, that is, we don't. The ship, of course, can't. There was no harbor or anything like that, so we couldn't get close to the shore. But anyway, all these natives, they come out in their little boats, and they got all kinds of trinkets to sell. And
Oh, gee.
and they're kind of throwing them up at us and that kind of thing.
And how were you supposed to pay him?
Well, then they'd lower something down, a rope down, and
Oh.
we didn't bite much on that sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But we did get ashore and walked around a little bit and got some fresh bananas. And of course, they're huge when they're ripe on the tree.
Oh, okay.
And matter of fact, we bought a few of us guys, we bought a whole stalk of bananas and took aboard ship with us. Well, anyway, that was interesting.
Most of the men weren't interested in the trinkets, but the bananas, those were different. When ripe on the tree, they were enormous. A group of Don and a few other sailors pooled their money and bought an entire stock of them, hauling their prize back to the ship like conquerors returning with spoils. It was a small victory, fresh fruit in a world of canned and preserved food, a taste of something real. The Fiji stop was brief, but it left an impression. The natives, the boats, the sense of being far from everything Don had ever known.
From Fiji, the USS Blue Ridge sailed toward Brisbane, Australia. Brisbane was different. It wasn't an exotic port. It was a major naval hub. It was where the real war was being coordinated. It was where the American presence in the Southwest Pacific was concentrated. But there was a problem.
Then from there we went on to Brisbane, Australia. We were there for a few days. They had to put some more ballast in the bottom of the ship. We were top heavy because the ship has a lot of antennas and things up above there, you know. So they decided that we were top heavy and needed more metal down the bottom there. So that's what they got down in Brisbane.
The USS Blue Ridge was top-heavy. All those antennas bristling from the superstructure, the equipment that made it a flagship, were throwing off the ship's balance. In Brisbane, they loaded metal ballast into the bottom of the hull to compensate. It was technical work, unglamorous, but essential. A ship that couldn't maintain its equilibrium was a ship in danger. This was the reality of naval warfare, not just guns and strategy, but engineering, mathematics, physics. Everything had to be precise. From Brisbane, the ship moved north to New Guinea. This was getting closer to the war. This was where things became real. They would stay in New Guinea for about 6 months, moving between ports as the invasion progressed. First Finschhafen, then Hollandia. Each port was a step closer to the enemy. But on the ship itself, life had a strange rhythm.
And from there, then we moved up to Buna, a bay in New Guinea. And like I say, we were there for about 6 months to start with, and then later on, as the invasion progressed, we were up to Hollandia. That was another port.
Did you always sleep on the ship, or did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I was on there. That was the nice part about being there, as opposed to being one of the army troops that had to go ashore. Because
Unlike the army troops who had to go ashore and fight, Don slept on the ship every night. He had a bunk. He had a laundry service. He had relative safety. The Navy men protected the flagship with smaller, faster destroyers circling around them constantly. They were living in a bubble of relative security while the war raged on land and in the skies around them. It was the nice part about being in the Signal Corps on a Navy vessel.
October 1944. The invasion was coming. It would be the largest amphibious operation in the Pacific War. Larger than North Africa. Larger than Normandy. The target? Leyte in the Philippines. And Admiral Barbee, commander of the USS Blue Ridge, wanted his men to understand the magnitude of what was about to happen. He distributed a briefing paper to the crew.
well, in this Leyte invasion, as I mentioned here, in the southern part of the Philippines, here's one of the articles on it. It says it will be larger than the convoy used in the North African invasion. It will have more large ships than are used in the Normandy landing. It is probable that more men will be put ashore in the Philippines the first day than were put ashore in similar period in Normandy.
And that's your paper you would get on your ship?
That's one of, and this came from Admiral Barbee, the commander of aboard the flagship USS Blue Ridge.
And then all those ships, you said you could see them for how many miles back?
Well,
The numbers were staggering. More men would hit the beaches of Leyte in a single day than had landed in comparable periods during the entire Normandy campaign. The convoy assembled for this operation stretched across the horizon, 15 miles back, sailors said. You could see as far as the curvature of the earth would allow. An entire floating city of warships, transports, destroyers, and supply vessels, all converging on one small island in the Philippines. Don Oganes was about to be part of the largest invasion of the Pacific War. The scale of the operation was beyond comprehension for a young man from Minnesota. 15 miles of ships, Navy destroyers circling protectively, aircraft overhead, and below decks on the USS Blue Ridge, in the radio room, Don Oganes was about to experience the most intense period of his military service.
15 miles, they say. We could see as far back as the curvature of the earth would allow. Yeah.
And then did those men get off? Did we have soldiers getting off those ships, or?
Oh yes, a lot of
Oh,
a lot of soldiers got off the ships, and of course a lot of them were just Navy ships to protect the flagship, and and they were, they would stay on the ships. These were Navy people then, bombarding the landing before the troops went aboard.
Oh, okay.
And Navy and big, what would you call them? The large ships anyway that do the bombing, and the small destroyers that would protect the ship. I mean, there was destroyers. They're fast, and they were surrounded. We were surrounded by those all the time. Well, they had to protect our big boy on the ship, you see. So I felt pretty safe there.
Yeah, yeah.
The Navy ships stayed back, protecting the flagship. They weren't landing troops. That was the Army's job. The Navy was there to bombard the shore, to suppress enemy fire, to create a corridor of safety for the landing craft carrying thousands of soldiers toward the beaches.
Don was safe on the ship, protected by the Navy boys who surrounded them. But from his position in the radio room, he would hear everything, every order, every update, every confirmation of bombardment, every report from the troops going ashore. He was about to witness the turning point of the Pacific War. During an invasion, during active combat, the rhythm of life on the USS Blue Ridge changed completely. 2 hours on duty, 2 hours off. No real sleep, just constant vigilance, constant communication, constant tension. Don was in the radio room, copying code, routing messages, maintaining the lifeline of communication between Admiral Barbee and every ship in the fleet.
So what was a typical day for you? What did you do in a typical day?
Well, I was in the radio room and copy code when I did that. And sometimes I was supervisor on the crew. We'd have a half dozen, or we were down in the radio room 24 hours a day, night around the clock. So we had to work in shifts. And during an invasion or during the fighting, we were 2 hours on and 2 hours off, so we didn't really get any sleep, or much of any sleep then.
No.
And otherwise it was usually 4 hours on and then 8 hours off, and that type of thing. But we sat there copying code, and like I said, as a supervisor on the crew that I had, half a dozen guys, radio men, we'd get the encoded message from the other cryptographers that I mentioned before, another group of Army people on there, and they'd send the message down in code, and then who it was to go to. Then I had to figure out and who or where this message would be sent, so it would get to the particular person or place. Well, then I had to put that in code. So it was kind of complicated.
When you sent the message out, did every ship get it, but you had to make sure it was directed?
If they were tuned into your particular, what do you call it?
Station or whatever?
Station, yeah. Then they could copy it, yes. That's why it had to be encoded, because the Japanese could then copy too, but if they didn't know our code, well, they couldn't break it down. But most of those ships, other than ours, the one I was on, wouldn't get a lot of messages picked up, because they couldn't pick it up that far away. So we would, on our ship, we'd even send from the Philippines to Honolulu, and then from Honolulu it would go to the to the States. So it was quite an operation.
It was complicated work. Messages arrived encoded. Don had to figure out where they needed to go, to which officer, to which ship, to which unit. Then he had to encode them again before sending. Speed was critical. Accuracy was essential. One mistake could mean the difference between coordination and chaos in an invasion means death. Don wasn't on the front lines. He wasn't wading through water toward machine gun fire. But he was carrying the weight of command, the responsibility of making sure that tens of thousands of men received the orders they needed to survive. Don did something that most men in the radio room never did. During one of the landings, he went topside. He went up on deck, and he saw something that would stay with him for the rest of his life.
But that was only the first landing that we went to, Leyte, and then later on, then we had to go up to the northern part of the Philippines, and that was another landing there then, and a lot of troops, a lot of ships, and that was, like I mentioned before, I was glad that I was on the Navy ship, because I went out topside one time and during this landing, and I see these guys going aboard on these landing crafts. They'd be standing in there, and I could talk without my hands moving.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
But anyway, they drop when they get ashore, or pretty close to shore, they'll drop the front down. You've probably seen that in movies or things. And then the troops wade out into the water and stuff. And well, anyway, after some of the shooting had gone on, and you look out and you see bodies floating in the water, and these guys going ashore. When they get ashore, it's more or less each man for himself there. Whereas on the ship, if our ship went down, I wouldn't be the only one going down. The whole ship,
He watched the landing craft approach the shore. Soldiers standing in them, packed shoulder to shoulder, the ramps dropping, men wading into the water. And then after the fighting had started, after the smoke cleared, bodies floating in the water. Each man for himself. Survival depended on luck, on speed, on being in the right place when the bullets stopped coming. Don was grateful to be on the ship. If the USS Blue Ridge went down, at least he wouldn't be alone. The whole ship would go down with him. There was a strange comfort in that.
Despite everything, the bombardment, the chaos, the proximity to death, Don and his unit on the USS Blue Ridge came through unscathed. None of them were wounded. None of them were killed. And their ship earned recognition for its actions.
Did you lose friends?
No. None of our people on the ship got hurt. We did get credit for shooting down one plane. They put a flag on our ship, a Japanese flag painted on the ship that we shot one down, and according to the write-up here, assisted in shooting down another one, I guess. I don't know.
I didn't realize they did that if you shot down a plane with a flag on it. That's pretty neat.
Oh yes, they would do that.
A Japanese flag was painted on the USS Blue Ridge. One plane confirmed shot down, another assisted. These were small symbols, but they represented something larger. That this ship, this crew, had played a role in the defense of the invasion. They had done their job. Don had done his job. In the radio room, copying code, routing messages, maintaining the communications that allowed Admiral Barbee to command the operation, he had been part of something historic, and he had survived it. After Leyte came other operations, but the trajectory of the war was clear now. Japan was being squeezed from all sides. The end was inevitable. The USS Blue Ridge sailed back to Hawaii. The ship was going to be refurbished, upgraded with new communications equipment, and then the invasion of Japan. But something unexpected happened.
When we came back to Honolulu, after pretty much of the Philippines had been taken, I came back in October, and actually I wanted to stay in another I wanted to stay in another at least 6 months because I didn't want to come back to Minnesota in November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you weren't able to?
Well, no, you couldn't sign up for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I would have had to re-enlist for
Right.
3 years, I think it was, or something like
And
that.
you didn't want to do that?
Well, I had mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
I had a good rating, you know, I got good pay and all that sort of stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would have been able to keep that if I had stayed in, because after the war was over, I probably would have cut some of the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that would have gone. I didn't stay to find out.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you recall when your service ended? Like where you
Yeah.
were when you were told you're done?
Well, in the Philippines, I mean in Hawaii, and see, our ship was there. We went from the Philippines back to Hawaii, and the war wasn't over yet then, and the ship was going to be refurbished, you might say. New communications radios and things were going to be put on, and even some more guns, I guess. And then I was going to go to Japan for the invasion of Japan. Well, while we were in Hawaii, some of us guys got to go home. So I came home on a 30-day leave,
Oh.
and I was home here in July, and I got back to. We came in on a ship to Seattle, and I came across on the railroad home, and I was home for that length of time, the 30 days. I went back to San Francisco and to catch that same ship that we came to Seattle on, back to the Philippines, to Hawaii, I should say. And we got in on that day, and that day happened to be the surrender of Japan,
Oh, okay.
VJ Day.
So the bomb had already been dropped?
And that had been taken care of, yeah, right.
Oh, okay. So were you at home when the
No.
first bomb was dropped?
Tell the truth, I'm not sure just exactly how many days ahead of VJ Day that occurred.
Okay.
But anyway, we still had to go back to Hawaii to the ship, and then the ship was still going to go to Japan. And of course, we were on there for the purpose of handling communications for the Army before they made a landing, you see. And once they made a landing and could set up their own radios and so forth on board, then we just went back to doing our regular communications on the Navy ship then, see. Well, going to Japan with the war over, there's no invasion, so why were we needed? But they weren't going to let us go. They were going to make us go to Japan. And then the other thing was that about the time that we got to Japan, they were already starting to let people out, you know. About the time we got to Japan, we would have had enough points to get out and go back home. Well, finally, 1 hour before the ship was to leave,
For?
for Japan,
Okay.
they told us, the Army detachment, they told us, if you can get ready, you can get off, you don't have to go to Japan.
Don got 30 days of leave. He went home to Minnesota. He was there when the atomic bombs fell. He was there when Japan surrendered on August 15th, 1945, VJ Day. When he returned to Hawaii to rejoin his ship, the war was over. Japan had surrendered. The invasion of Japan would never happen. And just 1 hour before the USS Blue Ridge was scheduled to depart, an officer told the Army detachment, "If you can get ready, you can get off. You don't have to go to Japan." The relief was overwhelming. Don Oganes was going home. The journey home was long, from Hawaii to California by ship, then by train across the country, from California to Chicago, and from Chicago to Fort McCoy in Wisconsin. Don, now a master sergeant, had a responsibility. He was in charge of the troop train.
Went over to Healy, one of the other islands, to a rest and recreation camp there, and they had Japanese prisoners or young fellows that were dependable anyway, taking care of the camp, keeping it clean and keeping keeping us happy.
Yeah.
So we had horseback riding there and different things, so that was fun.
Oh yeah. And then straight from Hawaii you went home? Or did you have to come somewhere in the States?
No, came right back from Hawaii. Came back to California, San Bernardino, I think it was. We landed the ship. Then then I had a job. I was in charge of a troop train from California to Chicago and then to Minneapolis. Not Minneapolis. We went right from Chicago. We went to Camp Crowder in Wisconsin. Fort McCoy, not Camp Crowder. Fort McCoy. That's where we got discharged.
So you had to make sure the troops behaved?
But I had to, on the troop train, I had to make sure, I had to get guys for the kitchen duty to feed us, We had to do that by ourselves on the train.
Excuse me.
So that was a job. So that was because I had more stripes, so
yeah.
And my name began with A, so that was easiest to pick me for the rest of them.
Did they give you any trouble then?
No. But coming from Chicago, we could get off in Chicago for a few hours. I remember that before the train left, and going from Chicago, then I had a list of the people that were supposed to go to Fort McCoy. One was missing. Well, too bad. You're going to miss getting discharged. So anyway, we got on this train and go to Camp McCoy, and we get there early in the morning, or 5 o'clock, or I don't know what time it was, 5-6 o'clock in the morning or so. And we got to the railroad station, and what do you suppose I saw?
That guy.
That guy that was missing. He was there. He got there. I don't know how he got there. He caught another train. Maybe he had to buy a ticket or something.
Oh my gosh.
He got there before us.
There was an unforgettable moment in Chicago. A soldier had gone missing from the troop train. Don thought he'd have to report it, a failure on his watch. But when the train pulled into the station at Fort McCoy early that morning, there was the missing soldier, waiting on the platform. He had caught another train, bought his own ticket, and arrived before them. From Fort McCoy, Don was discharged. He took the train home to Fertile, Minnesota, 6 miles south of town, where his family had always lived. The train stopped at a railroad crossing near Fleming, and Don stepped off with his baggage. His father came to pick him up.
And we lived 6 miles south of town here at the time, up in Sundal. You know where Sundal is?
Yep.
Sundal Township? Yeah. You know where Fleming is?
Nope.
Fleming was a station on the Sundal Road there, east and west, the railroad tracks there? Yeah, when you first cross the railroad track. Anyway, I'm coming home for discharge, and there were a few guys on the train coming back to Fertile that worked on the railroad. And I don't know, somehow or other we got to talking and visiting, and one of the guys must have gone up and talked to the conductor, and don't you suppose they didn't take me to Fertile. They had the train stop right at the crossing there and let me off right there.
Oh, and that's where your home was.
Well, I lived a mile east and a half a mile south there.
Okay.
But anyway, from there I just had like a half a block to walk to the neighbor there.
Yeah.
So I walked over there with my baggage.
Yeah.
And called home then.
Oh.
So my dad came and got me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So did he show any emotion when he picked you up?
There was no emotional reunion, no hugging. That wasn't how men showed affection in those days. There was just the quiet acceptance that Don had survived, that he was home,
that life would go on. He helped his father on the farm for a while, but Don didn't stay. He got a job at a grocery store and meat market in Plum, Minnesota. Then he worked at a creamery, and eventually he went to work for a mining company on the Iron Range, where he would spend 30 years. He had changed. The farm boy from Fertile had become a man who had coordinated the largest invasion of the Pacific War. Nearly 4 years, from September 1943 to August 1945. From a farm boy in Minnesota to a master sergeant in the Signal Corps. From the equator to the Philippines. From the radio room of the USS Blue Ridge to the turning point of the Pacific War. Don Oganes didn't earn dramatic medals. He wasn't wounded. He didn't lead men into battle. But he was there. He was part of something that changed the world.
Did your service and experiences affect your life, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think it helped my life. I think the fact that I was able to attain that Master Sergeant rank there helped me in my job. Mm-hmm. I got a supervisory job there, general foreman and so forth. Mm-hmm. I think it helped in that respect.
Sure.
And the experience, of course, was good. I didn't get any injuries or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay.
And there was no traumatic life, you might say, or thing to adjust to when I got out of service.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you miss it once you got out?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, yes. The camaraderie and.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, in your opinion, what has been the proudest moment in your life? Can you think of a time where you felt so good?
Oh, I think meeting my first wife was probably, and then the second wife.
Yeah, yeah.
They've been the highlights of my life.
Uh-huh.
And of course, having 2 kids.
Yeah. Do you have grandchildren?
Oh yeah, I got 5 grandchildren, and what have I got? 2 great-grandchildren.
Oh,
They're brand new.
Oh, okay.
One was born July 2nd, and one was born, well, just a year old now.
Oh.
What Don learned in those years was that war is not what the books describe. It's not glory. It's work. It's fear. It's camaraderie forged through shared hardship. It's taking decisions in split seconds that determine whether men live or die. It was the canvas tube at the equator. It was the bananas in the Fiji Islands. It was standing on deck watching a horizon completely filled with ships at Leyte, knowing that tens of thousands of men might die that day. It was all of that. When Don returned to Minnesota, he returned changed. He had been on the winning side of the largest naval battle of the Pacific. He had helped coordinate victory. And decades later, when he brought out these photographs, the King Neptune initiation, Admiral Barbee, the ship stretching to the horizon, he had a story that deserved to be told. Don Oganes was a radio operator on the USS Blue Ridge. He was part of history. And that is a legacy that will endure.